Welcome to Earth. And also welcome to class. Today's essential questions are, why is Ryan Reynolds in everything now? If a movie makes you cry, does that make it quote-unquote good? And do cinephiles really have to go knocking door to door when they move to a new neighborhood? Let's introduce today's teachers. I am Mr. Walter, and I knew why animals had fur, but it took me until college to connect that that's why warm jackets are fuzzy.
I am Mr. Linton, and I once totally scratched up the bonnet, the hood of my car, because I decided to clear it off with a snow shovel. Oh, a metal snow shovel.
Ew. Okay, I'm Mr. Abbers, and I have to spell check just about every word more than 5 letters that I write on my whiteboard in class.
Same. And I am Brooke Krieger. I am excited to be here. I had actually a little bit longer of the dumbest thing I've ever done, and it's kind of embarrassing. In college, my then boyfriend, now husband, ran WisconsinDuckHunter.com, and apparently one day I thought it was a good idea to start an account as Bufflehead Assassin, and then I proceeded to, I just blanked out on the name, Fish, where you... Catfish, thank you. I just lost that word. I catfished my now husband's best friend, and at first it was really funny, and then he started divulging like some not intimate, but like personal details of his life, and I realized I probably went too far, and it was a bad idea. And to this day, neither my husband nor his best friend ever want to talk about it because they're so disappointed with my poor judgment. But it was exciting at the time, and then...
And even after all that, apparently, we're still the smartest guys in the classroom.
/ gals?
Oh my!
I don't think guys is gender specific these days.
I'm okay with it.
We don't mean it to be.
You guys, I mean, we're Midwest. It's good.
We're pretty Midwest.
Y'all are the smartest in the classroom.
It's gonna be real fun figuring out where Derek puts
cut that.
puts the music in the middle of all
that. On this episode, we're talking about movies, and the reason we're doing this is because fiction, in a lot of cases, is more powerful than reality, right? Unless it happens to you personally, you can hear a story about something that happened to someone and just not care. But then you see it put into a movie or written in a really good book, and suddenly it has a momentous effect on you. And just kind of to explore why is that, or how has this affected each of us personally, we wanted to bring some stories to the table. And we were keeping this film specific because I love movies. I've seen hundreds of movies. Brooke, I know you've seen probably hundreds of movies. Mm-hmm. You gentlemen have seen literally tens of movies.
Look, I worked at a Hollywood Video for like 6 years. So if a movie came out between 2000 and 2006, I saw it. So I have very, very deep post-hole knowledge of a very narrow band in cinema history. Okay?
I also was a high schooler with very little social life outside of extracurriculars and access to and access to cable. So TNT, USA, all those great cable channels that just would do movies. A lot of the time, I would just end up watching those. So again, similar to Mr. Linton, I have a very narrow time span, but of a broad range of movies.
I thought this would be extra fun because specifically Brooke and I have seen some very out there movies.
Do you remember the first time we met and how we got on to talking about movies? You came into my classroom and you saw my countdown of movies, and then you're like, I've seen this, and then we had this moment of like, did we just become best friends? Like, there's someone else that has seen some pretty
really weird
obscure movies. And I grew up in the country. I didn't have cable, but my brother and I decided not to make any excuses, so we would ride our bikes into town, 5 miles on our bikes.
Uphill both ways.
Uphill both ways, through the snow, even though it was in the summer, and we'd rent a movie, go home.
Did you just say you biked into town on your bikes?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking. Continue.
And that was the end of that.
Sorry.
But that's how I got my culture.
Yeah.
Is riding my bike on my bike. So into town to rent movies.
And I always really enjoy sharing movies that I have seen, and I'm sure you do too, with people who haven't seen them. Because I know there's some movies that I just think everyone on planet Earth has already seen.
You make a lot of assumptions about.
Like The Lord of the Rings, not naming any names.
You haven't seen Lord of the Rings?
I've seen parts of almost all of them.
But there are certain movies that I think everyone should have seen. So we just want to share some of those. So
here we go.
Who wants to go first?
I believe
should I go first with mine?
As the host of the show.
As the host of the show.
You get to decide who goes first.
Well, I'm going to talk too much anyway. So, Linton, would you like to share one of the movies that changed you?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess when I was selecting my list of movies to talk about on this podcast, I was really thinking about the concept of movies that also kind of changed the way that I viewed cinema. One of the things that I've always really connected with is stories that feel true and feel revelatory and reveal something about human nature and just portray it in a way that just seems so honest and raw. And I'm just kind of attracted to that. And so the movies that I picked for today are maybe obscure to a lot of people, but I don't know, some of my favorites. So the first one I want to talk about, and also because I know it'll get Brooke going too on this one, is a movie called Moonrise Kingdom. So I've always been a Wes Anderson fan because I think he does that, just creates these really beautiful, visually stunning pieces, but then also just reveals a deeper truth about people. And Moonrise Kingdom did that for me because I think it's such a raw, honest telling of what young love feels like.
It's probably the most honest depiction of young love on film.
In a really often uncomfortable way, which is how you know that it's real. When you kind of want to look away from the screen because you're like, I don't think I should be watching this. Not because it's graphically inappropriate, but just because it feels like an intimate moment that you shouldn't be seeing because it's so private. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there's a scene on the beach that does that for me. So, anyone else want? Because you've seen this.
I have not seen it.
You haven't seen
I have not
Kingdom?
Seen it.
You're
I know.
such a Wes Anderson
I know.
fan.
So Royal Tenenbaums. Yeah. How do you describe everything about it? Just feels like condensed goodness and like visually appealing. I quote that movie all the time and no one ever gets it. Like when Gene Hackman's reading in the closet and his kid walks in, shuts the light off, and he's like, I was in the middle of a sentence. Like there's just like random hilarious thing, like a really different kind of humor that it's not for everyone. It's a really specific humor. And same with Life Aquatic.
Steve Zissou.
That one I was amused by, but Royal Tenenbaums is just a special place in my heart. I'm not opposed to watching Moonrise Kingdom. That's young love, like middle school.
They're like 11, 12.
And they
right?
they run away.
Oh, wow.
Is that the premise?
Run away
Yeah, they run away.
Yeah.
Okay.
My brother despises Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Just absolutely hates him. He says he feels way too OCD for him.
I see. He controls every piece of the film,
but
right?
My brother does like his animation because it feels like it works more with that Fantastic Mr. Fox or I
love
Dogs.
that.
Fantastic Mr. Fox is just
Well, there's a certain hyper realism to it that I think
that's what it is. Where he embraces like those awkward moments that naturally happen in life.
Mm-hmm.
But is that the one where he made them all like stay in the hotel? Like he just controlled everything that the people had to be together all the time when they're making the
I'm not
movie.
sure which one
I feel like he does that, and I thought Moonrise Kingdom was the one where he just was like super controlling.
Maybe, I don't know.
What's the time and place of Moonrise Kingdom, the setting of it?
You can't really identify the time for what time they take place in, because they seem vaguely nostalgic. Like they feel like
They're kind of
they took place sometime in the past, but you could not name when.
There's no events, no big technology.
So
or anything
again, that nostalgia. So it has kind of more analog type technology in there a lot of times. So there's not that modern technology, and the colors are more vibrant, kind of 60s, 70s kind of
eclectic,
pastel,
real kitschy.
Yeah, but you couldn't say it took place in that time period. I don't think
He does use a lot of analog stuff.
Yeah.
In his movies.
It's all a very quaint aesthetic that he's trying to build. Not really a time period that he's trying to build.
And a lot of them are bound by geography or location to this very small space. Like Moonrise Kingdom takes place on an island that is the host of a Boy Scout menagerie, like their big summer camp out thing, right? So there's this huge Boy Scout gathering. They have to take a boat. The only way to get to the island is by boat or by plane. And so there's like a big storm coming, so it creates this pressure, like we have to find these kids before the storm comes. And
maybe I'll try watching it this weekend.
It'd be a good time.
If you would have asked me what Moonrise Kingdom was about before I knew anything about it, I would have said it's like a Kurosawa Japanese.
Kurosawa! It does sound like a Akira Kurosawa film, doesn't it? Throne of Blood, Run.
So the premise for the title comes from the girl is obsessed with like fantasy literature and trying to escape from her life, which she finds to be really boring. The boy is an orphan, and so doesn't have a life or a family. And so he kind of latches onto her, and she latches onto him because he seems kind of like romantic. And at one point in the movie, one of the fun little moments like that where you feel just that. She talks about how she loves stories about orphans because their life seems so magical, and his response is, "I love you, but you have no idea what you're talking about."
I feel like that might be a new quote I need to incorporate in my life.
I don't know how to segue off of this. So speaking of magic, Derek,
There we go.
what's one of your movies that changed you?
The top of my list, the first one I wrote down was Apollo 13.
Nerd!
Hey, that was loud. That was really loud.
How's the level?
Clipping a little bit. Nothing the compressor can't handle. Okay,
Sorry,
so
I do adore Apollo 13. So
the reason why, apart from me just being a big space exploration enthusiast, it's just we would watch it at my aunt and uncle's house in Green Bay. We watched it when we went over for Thanksgiving or Christmas. I felt like it was for like 5 years straight. That was the film that we watched.
That just seems like a weird one to watch over and over again.
I don't know why.
That's why you guys haven't seen that many movies. You just watch the same one over and over.
My family was definitely one of comfort in the known.
Okay.
So we
We could dissect that.
we would play the comfort in traditions, comfort in doing the similar things. So I didn't disagree with watching it because I loved knowing that it was a real set of events dramatized in places, and there's a heroic aspect to it of you've got the astronauts who are in space troubleshooting all this stuff. You've got the people back at Houston who are also troubleshooting all this. And having read the book Lost Moon by James Lovell and another author that he worked with, there's a lot more depth and more detail in seeing all that went in to bring this crew back home. And I find it very inspiring. Probably my favorite scene is when they have to do a manual burn. They don't have enough power to turn on the guidance computer, and they've drifted off because they've been venting something. Because they've drifted off course, they are running the risk of hitting the atmosphere too shallow and bouncing off. And so they have to do a manual burn, and they don't have. The movie portrays it very dramatically. It was like, we can't give you anything like but to aim at, and then Lovell's like, what if we just keep the earth in the window? It's like just something very simple for such a technical thing. And so it's a big scene where they have to keep the earth in the window. It's Lovell and Hayes working together because there's 4 sets of controls for all of the attitude adjustment, and they have to burn the engine for like 30 seconds, and it's dancing around the place, and then finally they get it locked in and dead center at the end of the scene.
Can I just say I love the diversity of opinions in this podcast? Because I'm over here like, I love this honest, human, raw emotion.
Yeah.
He's like, let me tell you about this nerdy science moment. And I feel like we're going to get some cannibalism from Walter over here.
I did not bring any cannibal movies. However, I thought about putting Rawr on the list.
Is that what that's about?
Rawr is a...
Well, okay, never mind. I
let's
didn't
not
ask.
talk
Never mind.
about it. Let's not...
We'll save it for another podcast.
We'll save that for another podcast episode. Yeah, that's just a really inspiring movie of like what we can achieve when we have to. Like,
Yeah.
It's only 4 lives, but it feels... Was it 3 lives? But it feels all the more impactful.
Yeah.
Because of because of how it's portrayed. Weird tidbit about that movie that I think of every time I see or hear any of those movies mentioned. Apollo 13 shares a little musical bit, which is also in Schindler's List, Enemy at the Gates, and Balto. And it's such a weird group of movies to have the same bit of music in it, but the same composer did some of them. James Horner did
the score.
Balto, and he did Enemy of the Gates, and he did Apollo 13, and then Schindler's List also has it for some reason.
I don't know who did Schindler's List.
So the more
Very
you know.
Specific information.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ron Howard directed that.
Yep.
Another one of my favorite directors.
Look, it's for the record, I think it's a great movie also. It's one of those movies where I imagine it was not uncommon in the movie theater during a showing of that for people to just like stand and cheer. I feel like there was a stand and cheer moment in that.
Probably.
When they get back.
When they're in, because don't they do that in Houston where everyone?
Everyone jumps up cheering.
They see the parachutes open. That's
That feels like a natural time to just stand up and cheer. I would have cheered.
What is a kilometer?
Somebody in the audience is like, and I'm proud to be. Nobody else? Okay.
Was that song even out?
Yes.
When did the movie come? When did that song come out?
That song,
Lee Greenwood?
like the 1980s.
Be an American.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
I don't know how
know. We
much-
know it. I like his rendition better.
Hey, I think we can only sing
copyrighted.
so much of that before we
Yeah.
get copyrighted.
And cut.
That song's from the 80s. I'm pretty sure.
resurgence after 2001.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. The more you know. I thought that was a like a post 9/11 song.
No.
Okay. Add that to the stupid things to list at the beginning of an episode.
I don't think having the wrong decade for a song is that stupid.
Well, you had Machu Picchu. You mentioned a movie-specific movie. As in, I chose this movie because it changed how I think about movies.
Well, and I think it reveals something about human emotion, right? Like, and what that feels
Right.
like. But yes.
Is that how you define it?
I think
Like
you-
an impactful movie.
Yeah, well, I think all of Wes Anderson's movies are just a slice of humanity. Right? They're a,
Yeah.
they're a
I think
good-
I interrupted his transition to him talking about his movie. I'm sorry.
Oh,
But anyways, a movie that there are a few movies that really changed the way that I thought about movies, and it started in college when I really got into absurdism. Waiting for Godot and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which are beautiful plays. Waiting for Godot is the better of the two, but they're excellent. And my brother heard that, and he's like, "Boy, do I have some movies for you." And the movie that he showed me was called Holy Motors. Have any of you ever seen Holy Motors?
Does it take place in Detroit?
Nope.
Have any of you even heard
I have
of
never
Holy
heard of it.
Motors?
You've never heard of Holy Motors?
Is it independent?
Holy Motors.
It is. It's foreign. It's French.
Okay.
I'm not sure it was independent.
And you're shocked that none of us have heard of this.
I'm
okay.
shocked
Keep
that
going.
you haven't heard of it. It might be on that poster of 100 movies.
It's not on that
It's
poster.
not on that
It's
poster.
not on that poster.
All right, carry on.
Holy Motors has every genre of movie in it. It's about a man who wakes up and he gets into his limo and he has to go to his first appointment. And at his first
So he's the driver or is he the passenger?
He's the passenger.
Okay.
And at his first appointment, he is doing mocap. And then he gets back into the car and changes, and now he's a little gremlin for a horror movie. Like he steals a pretty lady off of a photo shoot and takes her through the sewers. And then he gets back into the limo and now he's got to kill a guy.
Hello?
And then he gets back into the limo and now he's in a drama with a daughter. He gets back into the limo and then he's in a musical. There is everything in this movie, and it just completely changed how I thought about how you can tell a story and what you can do in the medium of cinema.
Is this so have you ever heard of the term of, we've got modernism, postmodernism, and then have you ever heard of the term of meta-modern?
I have not heard of
I have not
meta-modern.
heard meta-modern. Would you like to define?
So it just popped into my mind with, this comes from a YouTube video where a guy explains why Top Gun Maverick felt so different. And his
I think I saw that, yeah.
his case was that Top Gun Maverick is a callback to modernism with a definitive, I should have researched this ahead of time, but with a definitive good guy, definitive bad guy. And with postmodernism, you blur the lines between good and bad a little bit more.
gray.
It's a little bit more, shades of gray with your antagonists and protagonists.
50 of them, perhaps.
No.
That's not a real genre.
And then metamodernism is kind of more like, what it makes me feel like that movie is like, what is it called?
Holy Motors?
Holy Motors.
I would say it's absurdism.
And there's also the film that was very critically acclaimed that was Everything, Everywhere,
All at Once.
All at Once, yeah. That one also
still
was
haven't seen
cited.
that.
I haven't seen it yet. That's on my list.
That one was cited as being meta-modern, where it is, oh boy, it's a lot of stuff. But it is the meta, meaning it knows what it is, but it kind of harkens back a little bit to modernism, where you have a little bit more definitive arcs and good and bad.
More straightforward storytelling.
Sure. So would you agree that that's what Holy Motors is? Or
I would say the storytelling is not straightforward at all.
But in terms of,
Is there a story?
Yes.
Okay.
are there character arcs?
Many.
Vagueness.
It takes a lot to unpack and figure out what it all means. And I don't want to spoil the experience for everyone, but it's a movie that probably takes more than one watch if you actually want to watch it more than once.
I ain't got time for that.
And I don't think most people would want to do that.
And it's in French.
And it's in French. There is a bit in English in the musical section. But anyway, yeah. Going back to more straightforward stories. Brooke, what is a movie that changed you?
Okay, so the way you were describing it is kind of how you see a story differently. For me, it's so when I was trying to think about the movies that I would say changed me, it's either I'm laughing really hard or I hate a character or I'm sobbing. I need to feel something when I'm watching it. And Royal Tenenbaums, I feel something, but I don't have. It's like a comfort. That's maybe my comfort movie where it's like just a good feeling. But Manchester by the Sea has been on my list for years, and I've heard really good things about it. And then I sat down and watched it just a few months ago for the first time. And Casey Affleck's in it, and he's not my favorite actor. But I was trying to go in.
He got an award for that, didn't he?
Yeah. And I went into it with an open mind. And you said you saw the beginning of it.
I saw the beginning and had to stop for some reason.
Because you didn't like him. Because this movie, like you're watching and he's not very likable. And he finds out that his brother unexpectedly passes away. And this happens right away. And he's been named as the guardian of his teenage nephew, which is surprising to him because obviously it doesn't seem like he would be the best choice as a new guardian. He's a janitor. Janitor / maintenance man, and he seems like he has a pretty short temper again, and lives in a really, really small studio apartment that's in a basement. And in the beginning, it's. I mean, I had to kind of stick with it because I didn't like him, and usually for me to feel something, I have to resonate with one of the characters. And you feel that he really doesn't want to go back to his hometown of Manchester by the Sea, and you don't really know why. You see little glimpses of the life he used to have, and then trying to piece together what happened to him. And it seems like he had a beautiful wife and a different career and children and a house full of laughter. And you're just piecing it together, trying to find out what happens. And then when you find out what happens, it felt like physically someone punched me in the chest and pulled my heart out of my body, and it like lingered there. And then it just had a physical effect watching it. And as a parent, it's just every parent's worst nightmare. And then you just see him differently. And I think you kind of check your own biases, like how we are quick to make judgments of people who are like that character in the beginning, and what kind of what is part of their story that we're not privy to. But it was incredible.
Those stories are always the most impressive to me, when you can just.
I don't know if I need to see it again.
Absolutely gut punch someone.
Yeah, it's
and how to do that effectively as a writer. I need to take some notes. But
after the movie was done, I feel like I sat there for a while just thinking for a bit. But it was extremely powerful. And we've talked about some of our movies that we would say are the most impactful. I don't know if I need to see it again. Requiem for a Dream. Everyone should watch it. I don't think I need to see it again.
I don't think I need to see that one again.
No. I think anybody who says, you know what, I need to watch that again, probably...
I don't know.
Once is good.
Who's that by?
No idea.
We should know that because...
We should know this. Probably.
Derek, if you're not familiar, it's about drug addiction.
It scared the life out of me. As someone who grew up in the 90s, I watched it right when it came out, and it just terrified me.
Just it's the spiral of addiction.
And several people addicted to different things, and how they're interwoven.
Oh, it's Darren Aronofsky.
Could be, but...
Fill me in on that guy.
You don't know Darren Aronofsky?
No.
Okay,
it's the four, because it's the three friends and then the grandma.
He did Black Swan. He did the
on
Fountain,
the diet pills.
He did Mother. He did Pi. He did The Whale.
Mother, I'm good with not seeing. I saw a synopsis I read a synopsis and saw one little brief part of a scene, and I'm good.
He did the Black Swan.
Yeah, I was turned off by drugs by the Looney Tunes special.
I needed something a little
Derek,
bit.
was that last week?
Also seen at the same aunt and uncle's house in Green Bay.
Oh, look
they
at
just
that.
had it because they were teachers as well. They may have had it for their students to view, and they just popped it in for us to watch as well.
I needed something a little more crisp.
I'm imagining some really dark stuff about Bugs Bunny right now.
For me, it was Infinite Jest. I read Infinite Jest, and I was like, okay, if I was ever curious before, I will never, ever try anything.
For me, well, also House for drug addiction.
Oh,
House
I never
MD
watched House.
with Hugh Laurie.
Yeah.
So you have seen Requiem for a Dream?
I have. Yeah. That's quite the movie.
Yeah, I don't need to talk about that one. That's not on my list, but everyone should watch it once. Same with when we've talked about Nocturnal Animals. Like, I'm good. I think everyone should watch it once.
Right.
It scared me, even though it's not a horror movie. Or is it a horror movie? but I don't really want to ever watch it again.
Yeah, maybe. Another movie like that, but on a more religious tone, was another that I brought called Silence. And Silence is a movie that I think should be required watching for all of our pastors and teachers.
Did you read the book?
I did not read the book.
I bought the book for my father-in-law for Christmas.
Have you read it?
Christmases ago. No, he just said it was incredibly moving and eye-opening.
It ripped out my soul.
Really?
It completely changed the way I think about faith.
Wow.
I think that one should be required watching at least once. And I've watched it many times. That one's a little easier to watch multiple times than Requiem for a Dream, but the first time you watch it, it really puts you through the ringer.
Now, who are the main actors in that? Because that's a A-list cast.
Right. It's so
Is it Liam Neeson?
Liam Neeson plays Father Ferreira, who was a real-life Jesuit who apostatized in feudal Japan. And then it's what's his
not
name?
Ed Norton.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver.
Wow.
Are two Jesuit priests who go to try and find him and bring him back or discover if he actually did apostatize. So it's essentially 3 hours of Christians being tortured in feudal Japan, which does not sound appetizing, but it's necessary. I feel like it's one of those movies that I honestly believe that everyone should see.
I have to add it to my list.
I'll add that to my list.
Linton, do you have a segue off
Yeah, you know what?
Christians being tortured?
I'm going to take it back to a lighter place is what I'm going to do. Okay,
Wonderful.
it got darker and then darker and then I think darker. And we're going to take it somewhere later. So I guess I just like love stories, but I don't like normal ones. You know, I don't like it.
Well, you're abnormal, so.
Yeah, look, I just don't like it when something ends with "and they lived happily ever after," because that's not real. It's not
Snooze.
real, and it's not interesting. And it's not creative, and that's not how real relationships work. Because even in the best relationships, there's struggle and there's hardship and there's cycles, right?
I feel like Krieger has words to say.
Probably, if people ask me what my favorite movie is, and I don't usually have favorites, but this is the one that I say because I just want people to watch it because not enough people have watched it. It's called Once, and it's
Can
actually
you
a musical.
sing the theme song?
I probably could, but I'm not going to. And I don't know that I fully knew what it was when I put it in my DVD player, right? It just was intriguing. It had been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Song and these other things. And so I'm like, I'm going to check this out. And it just blew me away because it is a story of two people and a day. I mean, it's not a significant amount of time.
Have you seen this?
I have not seen
but I need
this.
to make him watch it.
Yeah, we need to have another movie day where I force him to watch something and he gets me to watch that.
Look, you already made me watch something. It's my turn.
That's,
anyway,
okay.
And
Fair.
the main actor and actress in the film wrote all of the music for the film too. So the songs are written by them, performed by them. The budget for this film was practically nothing. They shot it illegally on streets in Ireland from a distance because they didn't have the permits to actually do it, so they had to like sneakily film parts of it. They filmed parts in like the director's house, and so it's just this raw music that it feels so authentic. A story about two people who meet in a moment in time, and I'm not going to give any spoilers about that relationship, but I think it just plays out in such a natural and real way. And some people might not find the ending satisfying, but I think it's honest. And they converted it into a Broadway musical. I saw that on stage too, and it was really cool because they did. All the actors played their own instruments, and they played pre-show music on stage, and they had an open bar on stage, so you could go up on stage and buy a drink, and then like they played music before the show.
That's really cool.
And it just felt so intimate and personal and real, and everyone should watch that.
I have never seen it. I only know the soundtrack. And it's one of the most beautiful songs when they're playing in the guitar shop at the music shop.
Yep.
Yeah, I sing it, but I'm not going to.
You
have to look it up.
The song's called "Falling Slowly," and yeah, they just sit down. I think she wrote. I forget one of them in the movie. They say one of them had written out the song, and the other just picks up. One's on piano, one's on guitar, and they just kind of create this song together in a music shop on the display piano and like a display guitar, and it's really cool. They do still tour together, by the way. They have a band called the Swell Season, and they're going to be in Milwaukee in not too long.
Are you going to go see them?
I don't know. The music they create together and the release albums is much more polished,
right,
than I prefer.
Are they married? Are they together?
I think they were in a relationship for a little bit, but I don't.
Is this a film you can stream, get a DVD for?
Yes.
Yeah, I own it. So if you, it might be on Blu-ray, but I don't know if you have a Blu-ray player, but I can.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Can I just say how much I appreciate a man saying that he likes a romantic movie too?
Yeah.
He's very secure in his manhood.
As you look at me,
if I have any kind of pick that's not kind of weird or twisted, I have like the judgy look from my good friend Ben Walter.
Yeah, you're a little girly sometimes.
Which could lead into.
I tried to help you. We can come back to it.
We'll come back to it. I thought you were going to segue into. I do have a very girly pick.
You do.
But
you
you're
do
leading.
have a really girly pick.
Okay, my girly pick, not maybe a little more straightforward than the plot of Once, is Pride and Prejudice.
So
which
girly.
I love.
It's
have
so
you seen
girly.
it? Have you
yes,
seen
I
it?
have.
The one with Keira Knightley?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
Okay, what do you not like about it before?
It's fine. Other things I don't like about it, I watched it with my ex-fiance.
Oh, okay.
How's that for a dislike?
Well, don't let one woman ruin Jane Austen for you.
I think it was Mark Twain who said, if he could, he hoped that Jade Austen would rise out of the grave so he could beat her to death with her own shin bone.
All right,
And
time
I
for a
agree with
rant.
that.
That was Mark Twain.
This is my turn. So I know it is really tempting for a male, especially one who maybe doesn't care for romance, to find any kind of worth in it. And I was thinking about trying to put into words why I like that movie so much, because I do get frustrated with now the new genre of romance being marketed. Like, you go into Target, and if you've noticed, the romance that's being peddled is a cute cover where it's cartoon-like, and you open the book, and there's a lot of explicit content. It looks like really innocent love stories, but it's really pretty explicit content. So Pride and Prejudice, to me, tells a story that resonates with just so many females. And it just popped up on my TikTok feed of girls watching the movie for the very first time. And we all kind of have a very similar reaction to different parts, because a lot of us can empathize with different characters. And the older I get, even though it's from hundreds of years ago, I resonate with different characters. The first time I watched it, I could not stand the mother. And she was so annoying. And I think as a teenager, you can feel that like visceral annoyance with your mother. But as you get older, and just being able to watch the pressures back then of a household full of females, and you used to have money and now you don't have a lot, and your girls are getting older, and she's just trying her best to find good matches for them. And sometimes she has some moments where she's not really likable in her desperate attempts to marry her daughters off. And it reminds me, so much is, again, it was written hundreds of years ago, but we've all felt we can have shame for or embarrassment for different things our family does. But if someone that I don't know, and someone who's really arrogant, looks at my family and says
She was pointing at Ben while she said that.
says a comment about me or my family, that's not okay. And I think we all can feel that. And that instant dislike that two characters have for each other and feel like they're very right in their dislike. And as the movie goes on, you just start rooting for characters that you didn't think you could root for. And what one man thinks is being really romantic is the most insulting thing a man could say to a woman, which at the part where it's in the rain in the movie, when he's like, against my better judgment, I've developed feelings for you. And she's like, hello? This is the worst proposal ever. What do you mean? And then now we hear if a man wanted to, he would. And as a character with a lot of money, for Darcy, that might look like using his money in a certain way with big gestures and over-the-top things. But his is quietly working to help her family get out of a really difficult situation. And it's just a more healthy, if he wanted to, he would, example for girls.
If there is a gender-specific lesson for men/boys, what would it be from their point of view watching the movie?
That's a good idea. That girls just want to be seen and appreciated for who they are and their personality. I mean, I think...
As opposed to seen as objects?
Yeah, and that's why I think the movie, it feels very like he loves her for who she is and just appreciates spending time with her. And but that, and with the older sister, Jane, is a lot more quiet, and she's also appreciated for who she is. And, a lot of the pride and the prejudice that get in the way is one friend is just really protective of his friend and thinks that this is just a desperate gold digger family trying to get his friend's money, and he's just acting out of protectiveness. But I think for all boys, just to be able to appreciate a story that's a little different than flying to the moon or shooting to the moon or, just... And there's some pretty funny parts, too. With Mr. Collins, when they try to set her up with her cousin, cringeworthy.
Absolutely. Everyone's going to have to deal with relationships. Not everyone's going to get to go to the moon someday.
Right.
That's very true. That's pretty deep.
Wow. That's good.
You should have saved that for your takeaway.
You know what? I'll come back to your question. At the end, what really makes her fall for him, and we just got done talking about this in our psychology class, a lot of times men think as females, we want to be protected against the bear or the burglar, or that's what it's going to look like to protect us. And at the end, we find out that Darcy stood up to his very wealthy aunt and protected Elizabeth. Like, that's what a woman wants, is to feel safe and secure and seen, and that is what that's what it looks like. That was a powerful. Have you seen it?
No.
That's
that era of literature I've tried reading like Little Women, and I just can't.
Yeah. Then just watch the movie. So, and I'm curious. There's two very specific scenes in Pride and Prejudice that females we all get this incredible burst of dopamine. One of them just has to do with a man unclenching his hand, and the other one, if you just play a couple measures of the song, most women, I think, will agree that we have the same reaction.
Is that where he's walking up?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just, again, it doesn't make me cry or laugh hysterically, but it has moved me in a way because he is standing up for the woman he cares about, and he's a wealthy man who rides a horse everywhere or has an expensive stagecoach, and he can't sleep. And in the middle of the night, he has walked from however many miles away to talk to the woman that he cares about, and he's just hoping that he has undone some of the damage that he did with that first proposal where he insulted her so poorly. So you see that character development, and it's pretty good.
I want it to be known I am not opposed to romances or period pieces. I preferred Emma to Pride and Prejudice.
With Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yeah. And I don't know. I guess maybe that one's more humorous. So
It
maybe
is
that's why it was
there's-
more palatable for me. But
Have you seen
like,
Sense and Sensibility?
I have not. But one of my favorite shows is the 2016 War and Peace, which is just...
Look back. Isn't that what that is? Oh, no, that's North and South.
That's North and...
Have you seen North and South?
I have not seen
Okay.
North and South. But I'm
I
not
confuse the
completely
two.
opposed to all of that. Is there anything else you wanted to get off your chest?
I think
while
that's good.
you're-
Just being careful not to label something as girly, because some of the going back to those movies, it's a better example of what love looks like, and it does end with a happy ever after. Spoiler alert. But maybe that's just sometimes for some people that's what it looks like, or in the reality it's a 2.5 hour movie and that's all they could do.
No, look, I think sometimes it's okay. It's okay to have you need that. You want the cinema that ends in the happily ever after. You need that.
I
there's
definitely
nothing wrong with it.
Don't always need it tied up with a little bow, but sometimes when I just need to go back to that one. I've actually gotten in arguments with some people. How can you like this movie, or specifically Mystic River? How could you like Mystic River? It's so like depressing and it doesn't end on a happy note.
Really good.
But you watch something and you're like, holy cow, that's not really his daughter, and it sure seemed like it was, and you felt something when you were watching it. And I imagine that's how Once is. You feel something.
Yeah.
So
I'm so out of my depth in this conversation.
Was that your rant?
that was my rant, and I appreciate you guys now for being open-minded about Jane Austen and her great tales that are still relevant today. Thank you.
We have to grade it now.
Well, we have to grade it.
Grade of my rant?
We grade your. I'll give that F for feminism.
Oh,
no,
cut it out.
I will give that an A.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate the validation.
He's just glaring at me because I didn't give him anything remotely close to that.
I haven't even done a rant yet, so
I haven't given anyone
You
anything
haven't-
close to that.
Take that, Mark
I'm
Twain.
just trying to figure out why he's trying to curry good favor here. Like, what is he trying? That's
Because
just
we're
fear?
open-minded to each other's tastes, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, I watched Space Odyssey 2001.
B.
Fair.
B minus.
Okay. Which naturally segues
To Derek's last movie.
Just so that the audience knows, I'm picking between October Sky and Forrest Gump.
Another space movie or space adjacent movie?
Definitely.
Another movie with Tom Hanks and Gary Sinise.
Yeah, yep. Definitely.
And Gary Sinise gets legs made out of what they made
The space shuttle out.
the space shuttle out of. He says at the end of the movie.
Yeah, magic legs.
Anyways,
We're gonna go with.
I love.
We're gonna go
Forrest
with Forrest Gump
There we
because I
go.
can probably watch it more than October Sky. Though they probably make me cry equally the amount.
I love that.
Because, okay, Forrest Gump. I love it because. By the way, did you know it's based off a book?
Gump. Yes.
The book. This is one of the rare instances where I believe the movie is better than the book.
I have heard that from a few people.
Wow.
Because the tone of the movie is very different from the tone of the book, and Robert Zemeckis does a lot of different creative choices, like working in all of the historical vignettes and weaving Forrest Gump into the history of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and up to the 80s, 90s, very skillfully and very nostalgically. Is that a word?
It is now, as the English language dies.
Look, we've already established on this podcast you can make up words to make a point. It makes Ben die a little bit inside, which is just an added bonus from where I'm
I was
sitting.
going to say, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. The parts that make me cry are the lessons that they really try to put a pin in. There's the idea of being a feather on the wind, which is kind of like how the movie starts and ends, versus choosing your own destiny. You've got Ginny trying to forge her own destiny. You've got Forrest kind of, I think he kind of it's been a while actually since I watched the movie. He kind of starts with more of that you're just a feather on the wind.
Box of chocolates.
Yeah. And kind of by the end, he says maybe it's a little bit of both. And theologically speaking, I think you can almost agree with that, or you can agree with that, that we have free will within God's plan for us. So I tried that message resonated with me very powerfully. Also, the scene that always makes me cry is when Forrest discovers that he has a son, and he asks, "What?"
Spoilers.
That's all right.
Carry on.
It's a 20.
If you have not seen Forrest Gump by now, you are the problem.
He asks Jenny if his son is like him, if he has like the same IQ.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, he's like just
Super
a brilliant,
powerful.
really brilliant young boy. And like having kids, then having watched that is really powerful because I'm starting to lose myself here. You see yourself, you see your flaws potentially being passed on to your children, but then seeing them correct or seeing them be themselves and not just a reflection of you is pretty powerful.
Was there any more self-awareness earlier in the movie that Forrest knew that he was different? I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I've seen it.
He knew his mom had to make special arrangements for him to be in school because he was below 70 IQ, which is the baseline to be called. It used to be called the baseline of being a moron.
Yeah.
Back in the early 1900s.
But he doesn't really talk about it, and then that just kind of knocks you over a little bit in that scene.
He doesn't self-actualize that until that very scene. Yeah, and just all his heroic acts, just being...
Aside from I'm not a smart man. But
he said, I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is. That's another powerful line.
That's good.
Yeah. And me who didn't date or have that much romantic luck in high school or a little bit of early college, you always have that hope for yourself, no matter who you are. There's something's going to work out.
So he's telling me there's a chance.
Oh, here we go. Maybe if you sat down and really watched Pride and Prejudice, I would say that
You've gotten a lot of interest in the eHarmony profile that Brooke and I made for you.
What?
You gave us the green light.
I did not. Did no
That's not how
thing.
I remember it.
So, what can we conclude from all
Favorite
of this?
movie?
Raw.
Hey, girl, want to watch a cannibal movie?
Don't do that.
So, what can we conclude from all of this?
So I was thinking about this topic and these films. One of the things that I noticed is these are films that I haven't seen recently. They're ones that I saw a while ago. And I don't know if it was because it was a phase in my life where it resonated with me more, but I have this hankering guilt that the problem isn't that I don't relate to movies anymore as much as I don't watch them as closely anymore. We're now in a society where we have a screen in our hands while we are watching a screen in the room. And I think that makes everything that happens in the film or the TV show or whatever we're consuming more distant. It's a step removed because it's filtered through whatever we're looking at on our phones. And I guess my takeaway from this is that I want to put my phone away more often when I do that with one show right now, and that is The Bear. I put away my phone when I'm gonna watch an episode of the show. I have to put my phone away because I just need to absorb this TV show. But I'm gonna try to do that more.
And so I started by saying, for me, what makes a movie good is that it's impacted me. It makes me feel something. And just to piggyback off of your thought, we don't see a lot of movies in the movie theater anymore, but it's a lot easier to have that really emotional response to a movie in the movie theater. Mm-hmm. But just I would agree with you. Just trying to be more present when you're watching a movie and allowing yourself to have the vulnerability to feel something while watching a film.
Yeah. And I think we started this by asking, I guess, why is fiction more powerful, or what makes a movie quote unquote good? And something to keep in mind is there is not one best movie of all time. There's the best movie for you at any given point in time. Sometimes you can watch something or hear a song and you're not ready for it yet. And maybe 10 years down the line, you'll appreciate it better. Like maybe I'll see Pride and Prejudice when I'm 80 and like it. But whether you're a nerd or a sap or whatever you are, there is a
Pride and
movie
Prejudice
for you.
about prejudice. The irony. Pride and Prejudice is about a man's pride and his prejudice getting away.
You
need to watch it.
Okay.
I know I'm a nerd. That's fine.
No matter who you are, there are movies that speak to you, and I think it's important that you try and share those with others.
So the homework and my closing thoughts will kind of mesh together here. Here's the homework, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Sit down in a nice quiet place. Put away your phone. Turn off the other screens. Get rid of other distractions. If you have a significant other, you could maybe do this as an exercise with them. Write down the list of movies that you enjoy watching. Don't go much beyond 5 to 10. Write or think about or talk with someone why you like these movies. The objective here is to find any commonalities between the plots, the themes, or the story devices, and then ask yourself why you enjoy them. This is to hopefully shed some light on some of your own personality strengths and weaknesses. The more you know about yourself, the better you will be when life gets tough.
All right. Class dismissed.